Hi, I'm Patricia Grabarek.
And I'm Katina Sawyer, and welcome to the Worker Being Podcast. Today, it is our anniversary that we are celebrating. So,
Woohoo!
happy anniversary to us.
Our podcast is 1 year old.
1 year.
1 year.
It's a bouncing little
crazy.
baby podcast.
You know, it's walking, but a litlittle wobbly. It's just starting to get kind of used to that. I don't really know much about babies, so I can't really say more than
That's
that.
it.
But, you know,
It's just walking.
we're wobbly. That's
We're
all.
wobbly. We
Oh,
can't use
man.
the bathroom yet. I do know that.
Yeah, I know that too. But I was going to say first words, and I'm like, no, I think it's too soon for that. But I don't know for
we
sure.
might.
So don't
We might
hold me
have
to it.
some
maybe
words.
maybe like a ma or something
Yeah.
like that.
Well, I bet you said your first words by the time you were 1.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I
You
have no
definitely
idea. I don't
did.
know what age you do that. So
I think that you did. Like, I said a
Like me
sentence when I was
specifically?
9 months.
you said a sentence. What was your sentence?
It is cold.
You did?
Yeah. My mom was in the
Man.
car with me, and she was like, my mom was like, it is cold, it is cold, it is cold, because it was like freezing outside, and I was like, it is cold.
Oh, little genius baby.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm saying I think that you just don't know what age people say things.
maybe you know that's valid. Okay. I'll go with
Anyway.
that.
We might be
I just-
talking. We are wobbly, and we're excited because we're
Yay.
celebrating a year of
1
bringing this
year.
podcast to you. And basically, I mean, we've recorded not every week. We took some time off, but we recorded most weeks. So we've recorded
Yeah.
a lot of times.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, most weeks are recorded. I think we had like a 2-week break in terms of episodes over the holidays.
Yeah.
But otherwise we've had episodes every week. So I guess that would make for 50 episodes, right?
Yeah. That's like, I mean, now 50, that's an anniversary. You're definitely using the bathroom by then.
And full sentences, speaking
For sure.
properly, hopefully.
All the things.
Yeah. Hopefully
no.
not that wobbly yet for when you start
That'd
going
be
the
good.
other way.
That would be good. Yeah, I feel like it seems like it's gone. In some ways, it seems like it's gone really fast, and then in other ways, it feels like, when did we not have a podcast? I can't even remember.
I know. That's very true. I feel like we've gotten to a point where we're like really comfortable with
Yeah,
it. So like our prep for the podcast is a little bit shorter. Like we can just dive in and chit chat, and I feel like we're just kind of flow with it a lot better than we used to.
yeah,
Definitely, like I think our first episodes are a little bit rougher to listen to in terms
Yeah.
of our flow. I mean, I think they're still fine, but
they're
they're
not
nothing
as
like the ones that
polished.
never aired.
Oh, yeah, those were bad. I don't even
Yeah.
think we'll ever listen to them again.
I don't want to because
Yeah.
they were so awful.
They go into
Oh,
the
man.
virtual trash can.
Yeah. So, listeners, we had a bunch of episodes that we never aired because they were like practice episodes, and listening to them, let's just say wow. We were
Yeah.
really getting like that was the attempt to walk, but
Yeah.
we couldn't really fully stand up. It's like we
No.
started standing up, then we just fell right back down. It was, yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing, though. This whole year, I feel like we've learned a lot.
Yeah,
We've learned a lot on how to, obviously how to do this in a very efficient way, so we can still have this podcast and really enjoy doing it, but also not take up like, hours and hours and hours of our time every week because we are very busy people.
yeah,
So we've learned a lot around efficiency. We've learned a lot about comfort, I think, came from just doing it a lot. It wasn't
Yeah.
even like necessarily a specific learning, but just doing it, practicing, just like anything else. The more you do it, the more you practice, the easier it gets. So I feel like we got to a really comfortable place because of that.
yeah.
And I think that our interviews, like interviewing people, has become a little bit easier. I feel like we weren't bad at it to begin with, but now when we get these conversations with people, we're like, go with the flow. I feel like we are a little more natural with that too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think some of the things, like if anyone out there is interested in starting a podcast, I think some of the things that I learned that have been most interesting that I just didn't know before. One, I think when we first started, we didn't realize how much of natural conversation that seems normal when you're talking to a person on the phone or you're talking to someone for coffee or whatever, that a lot of that extra verbiage doesn't help you in a podcast because it's hard to distinguish who's talking when you can't see the people. And so a lot of, in the beginning, I think a lot of the errors that we had were just like we were talking over each other, we were both talking at the same time, or we were interjecting too much, or there was like a million times that I was like, yeah, while you were talking, and like then you can't hear what the person's saying. So I think one thing that we learned is that talking on a podcast is different than talking in real life, which is an interesting skill to learn because talking in real life, you know, you've been doing since some age, which clearly we're not sure about, but you've been talking in real life for a long time, and it sort of comes naturally, the cadence of conversation, and the cadence of conversation is different in a podcast than it is before. So that's like one of the big things that I took away from it that I just didn't realize when we first started that was going to need to be something we had to work on.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, we both were just like these monsters, just yes all the time. It's like there's this need just socially to acknowledge the other person and what they're saying, and that's just what you typically do. And so it was really weird to unlearn that. And it's funny because we've gotten to a point now, and I'm sure you agree with this, Katina, where I don't think we do that quite as often. I'm sure we still do it from time to time, but it's funny that we can transition, because before we start recording, Katina and I will sit down and we'll chat, right? We talk for a little while, catch up a bit before we actually get into the recording. And during that conversation, we're conversing normally. We're saying yes and interjecting and doing that whole like the social interaction things. And then we hit record and suddenly we're speaking a little differently. And I think it's really funny how we've become that, how we've been able to transition over the past year to really improve in terms of the way we interject and the way we acknowledge what the other person is saying.
I think so too. It's actually a good skill, I think, because there are all these different ways of communicating that you need to learn in different arenas in life. And it's always good to learn a new way of communicating. And obviously there's more that we can learn. We can always get better, but definitely compared to where we're a lot better. So if people think that we don't sound that good, you should hear us before. but yeah, I think that there's a lot of so that's one thing that I think has just been interesting, kind of recognizing the different kind of communication that it is. And then the other thing is that I think that I didn't realize how much goes into making a podcast. And I think that I have been really surprised, like happily surprised at how fun it is and how good it feels to like put a new episode out and have people listening from, you know, all over has been really cool. But then also I think, you know, it's given me new perspective when people are like, oh, you know, I think I might just start a podcast. And I'm like, you know, it's a little more work than you might think. And thankfully we have Allie, who is awesome and edits the podcast for us. But if you were trying to do that all yourself as one person, I feel like it's a little more complicated than I originally thought, with a great payoff. But it's just interesting because there's more to it than just sit down and talk and it appears somewhere.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of upfront learning to get it up and running and to figure out like how do you host it and where do you host it and how does that tie into a website and how does that tie into Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and blah 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 blah. Like there was so much there, and that was all in and of itself like kind of overwhelming, to be honest, at first. And I did not yet, like to your point, I didn't realize there was all that complexity and all those different things you had to think about. And without Allie, I don't know where we would be. Allie is a godsend. I mean, her editing this is just so huge. It's so helpful. I mean, she's just been so instrumental to making this happen. And I could not be more grateful for her presence in this whole process and her hard work. And it's also really fun because she's my friend from high school. So it kind of is like another layer here where got another really good friend involved in all of this. So that is just a fun side note. But I mean, without Allie, I don't think we could have this. I mean, we definitely couldn't have had as many episodes as we've had.
No. And yeah, Allie's awesome. She's an awesome person. She's been so helpful to us. And I'm sure she is also grateful that we got a little better, because in the beginning she had to cut a lot of weird stuff out of our recordings. So thank God. Also, I think we've at least made her job a little easier over time, that we're not awful. But but in the beginning, I mean, she was cutting a lot of ahs, huh, blah, pauses, talking over everything you could think of that would make the podcast not sound great. Allie had to sit and cut it all out, and she had to listen to our voices for a longer period of time than probably anyone should ever have to. So it was very awesome that she was willing to do this, and it's been great working with her. So that's definitely been those are, I think, the two big things that I learned, was sort of a new form of communication, and also that it's a lot of hard work, but it also feels really cool when it's done. I don't know. Did you learn anything different from that?
I mean, I think that those two things are huge learnings. Like, I agree with both of them. I think there's something to be said about listening to yourself and getting used to that.
Yeah.
That, I think, was kind of a big deal for me, because most people hate listening to their own voice because you don't sound the way you think you sound. Like, the way you hear it is different than the way it's actually sounding out in the world. And then I think people just, there's a lot of like anxiety around hearing yourself, and people feel self-conscious and all of that. So I think there's something to be said about listening back and hearing myself speak. Like, obviously, Katina, listening to you, I'm like, oh, that's the way Katina sounds, and
right.
She's awesome. But listening to yourself, you get really uncomfortable. And I think it's kind of made me be more comfortable with that. In that, I think that's really positive. I think that kind of helps boost confidence. And I think it's really helped me kind of be critical, but in a less personal way against yourself. Do you know what I mean? I feel like you get really like mean to yourself about things.
Yeah.
But I think having that step back, like listening to it like as a podcast, and then having to do that over and over and over again, you can really have a little bit of a better, more objective perspective on yourself in some ways. So I thought that was kind of a cool outcome of this whole process.
Yeah, I think so too. It's kind of like if you never want to look at pictures of yourself or something, it's a big breakthrough to be able to view yourself honestly and actually say, you know what, it's not so bad. I can handle, seeing what everybody else sees or hearing what everyone else hears. It does sound weird in the beginning, but it also has like some level of acceptance, and like it does grow your confidence a little bit because you put yourself out there in a different way. And if there are certain people that, like it or listen or whatever, like all our listeners, we're so grateful that all of you, like what we're doing and are happy to keep listening. Obviously, we couldn't do any of the things that we're doing if there weren't people that were encouraging us along the way. And that's everything from people, giving us feedback that they like it, but also just seeing that people are listening to it is feedback. So being able to put yourself out there and then looking out and seeing like, oh, people are listening to it, and oh, they actually like seem to like it, and all of that stuff. I think to your point, it's like you can put yourself out there. It might be a little hard to get used to at first, that step of putting yourself out there and having to kind of look at yourself from a different angle. But then once you get used to it, it's kind of nice to be in that like more confident place.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's big, and I think all of us can use a little bit of that. Even if you're not starting a podcast, being able to listen to yourself and be a little bit more objective instead of being in that kind of insecure place that a lot of us are, I think is really huge. So maybe just record yourself talking to yourself every once in a while and listen in and get used to the way you speak, and don't feel so weird about it. Like, it's totally fine. You're normal. You're awesome. I think that was was kind of a big learning. And to be honest, it didn't take as long as I thought. I thought I would be cringing every time I heard my voice for way longer. And eventually I was like, oh, well, that's just me.
That's me.
That's the way I talk. So whatever. But it was, I don't know. It was just an interesting thing. Like now when I put on our episodes, like I put it on and I feel like it's just totally normal, which is, it's funny, just the change over the year from being like, I hate the way I sound to, oh, it's not so bad, but it's still kind of weird having a show. And then to, oh, well, this is just life and normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also, it speaks to the fact that we've had good support and nice people that have given us good feedback too. Like if I know when I first heard a couple times and was feeling kind of self-conscious about releasing it. And then when we released it, so many people reached out with nice feedback and, you know, friends and family and then, you know, strangers and other people were, you know, talking about it. And that to me, I mean, obviously we have a long way to go. We want to keep growing. We want to get more listeners and keep, you know, sharing what we're doing with more and more people. But, you know, the listeners that we have and the people that gave us that early feedback, I also think makes a big difference, because if you're feeling self-conscious and then you don't have a supportive community around you, or you don't have people that are reaching out and saying, I really like that, then you can continue to sort of doubt that what you're doing is good. So there are a lot of people out there that gave us early feedback too, that I think kind of helps you to cement, okay, I don't have to be so hard on myself if other people are liking what we're doing and seem to be responding positively.
Yes, I mean, that is huge. So please, listeners, keep doing that. Give
Yeah.
us feedback. I mean, not just to pump us up, but like we love hearing from you, hearing what works for you, what inspires you, what you want to hear, what you are excited about. Like it's fun to see people interact. Like after the Who's Burnout episode, there was someone that posted an owl picture with, like in response to that episode, and that was because I was obsessed with Who, and like it was just funny. Like somebody else thought our silliness was funny too, and it was like that's really fun for us. I mean, we hope it's fun for you too, and we hope that when you're listening, you're enjoying and having fun as well as learning. So I mean, keep doing that. We love interacting with all of you and having that personal touch to it all.
Yeah, that was Bob Merberg. He gives us a lot of good content, so shouts to Bob. But I also feel like just cheer on. I think a lot of times people start new endeavors or new things, and there are probably other people in your life that are starting side hustles or entrepreneurial ventures, or they're trying to achieve a goal that, you know, seems scary to them. And I think, you know, just recognizing that it means something when you reach out and say something to somebody that a lot of times, especially when you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to put an idea together, you sort of feel pressure to make it all look like it's seamless and it's all coming across, you know, very cut and dry, or it just happened, you know. And I think that when you look at that from the outside, sometimes it can be easy to think that's what's really going on. But even the people that you think are the most confident also need encouragement. So maybe just, you know, from that perspective, another thing that I've been thinking about, and then maybe we like encourage you to think about too, is who else do you know that's starting something, or who else do you know that's trying something new that they haven't tried before? It does mean a lot to reach out, because even if they don't seem like they need the encouragement, that might be something that helps them to continue or keep going, because they're kind of putting feelers out, trying to see how other people are going to respond. And if they don't know how people are feeling about it, it might be discouraging, or they might not continue doing it. So if you know someone who's embarking on something that could require a little bit of bravery, it's good to reach out and be the person that helps them recognize the value of what they're doing.
Yes, I love that. I feel like we should challenge ourselves to reach out to at least maybe one or two people during our birthday week.
Yeah.
To congratulate them and encourage them in what they're doing, because I think it's really great to empower others to also pursue their passions. And our first episode ever was about passion and in the workplace. And if you're able to do that, and if there's people around you that are doing that, like let's encourage it. That we know that helps with their wellness, and obviously it helps kind of boost their motivation and get people to continue the great things that they're trying to do.
Oh, I like that. Let's do that. Maybe we should each try to reach out to 2 or 3 people this week and encourage them along their journey, like just people that we appreciate or accounts that we appreciate, and try to send them a little love.
Yes, that is the plan. It's on my list of things to do. Reach
Love
out
it.
to a couple people. Hope everyone else does it. We can spread the love. Yeah, but I think this is really fun. Like, I can't believe it's already been a year. Like, I'm so excited to see
1 year.
how everything goes. You know, what are we going to be talking about at year 2? You know, we had all these learnings up in this first year. What's going to happen in year 2? And hopefully we'll have more listeners. We'll have, you know, more interactions with you guys and be able to share some cool stories. And, you know, I want to thank our interviewees. Yes. I was like, why am I blanking on the word? The people that we have interviewed for joining us and sharing their stories and their insights. And I think that's been really fun and a great learning for us. So I'm excited to see the new folks that will get on the show. And I think this next year will be amazing, and then we'll be 2, which means we'll be less wobbly on our feet.
I know. Oh my God. We'll be running around, growing up so fast.
Terrible too.
We'll just cry every episode. No, throw
so feisty.
things. I'm not listening to you, Patricia. Anyway, yes, but thank you to everybody. Thank you to all of our listeners that have helped us have such a wonderful year 1, and we can't wait to see what is in store for year 2, and we hope that you're all still here with us. We're very grateful for you.
We're so grateful for you and all of your feedback and love, and please reach out. As always, we'd love to hear from you. You can find us at workerbeing.com. You can email us at workerbeing@gmail.com. And you can find us on social media at workerbeing. Post your owl gifts or anything else. We'd love to see your reactions to the episodes. And we can't wait to hear from you. And let us know your success stories of telling people that and encouraging others that they're doing a great job in their new endeavors. We hope you get to do that. And hopefully you guys have some cool stories to share.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
The Worker Being podcast is hosted by us, Patricia Grabarek
and Katina Sawyer, and produced by Allie Johnson.